welcome back to another episode of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, where we're bringing nothing but solutions to every problem there is in the world. And as I always talk about in the podcast, first of all, thank you to 35,000 subscribers on the podcast right now. The Mind Management Mentors podcast is one of the quickest growing podcasts in the United Kingdom right now. We've grown exponentially, and we're talking about coaches, how they build their business, workplace wellness, mindset, and mental health. It's the three pillars of the podcast. And today I'm a little bit excited. I am not going to lie. We have an action-driven coach who is an international speaker, and I cannot say how excited I am about this. So I'm going to let you. You have a game show called. We have a game show in the UK called Blind Date, where the host would always say, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Awesome, awesome. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kenny. It's really nice to be here. I'm Diana Pagano, as you said. I'm an action-driven mindset coach. I'm the person that comes in when you don't know what the heck is next in your life, whether you've reached amazing success, but you just don't feel that push of like real fulfillment. Or maybe you're just ready to take your business to that next level or just don't know where to begin. As you said, I'm also an international keynote speaker. I'm an author to a book coming out January 13th of The More Mindset.
I love that. The more mindset. Is that a dirty word for some people wanting more and more and more? Is that a dirty word for people?
Probably to some degree. To some degree, it's like, wait, what does that mean, right? Because oftentimes people say more, more. We live in such a crazy culture where it's like a hustle culture, right? Could where it's like more this, more that. But the more mindset is not about doing more. It's about believing more. It's about becoming more of who you were meant to become without the things that we as humans sometimes put these barriers and we convince ourselves why we can't do that thing or why we're not ready or why we don't have enough money and we put that on our own. And the more mindset is about believing more, thinking bigger, really foundational too of how to get yourself to think a little bit differently about how you're seeing what you're seeing of your own results.
And I love that because I know, and this is what I always say to a lot of the guests that we work in the same space, and I think there should be more collaborations. Whereabouts in America are you from? Just to I'm guessing, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing you're New York area-ish.
You know what's funny? So really quickly, yes, ish, you're right. It's actually Connecticut, right before between New York and Boston, I always say. But I'm originally from San Diego, and my husband always says, "You're like a San Diego girl with a New York attitude." So I'll take it if that's what it means, you know. It's like New Yorkers are, I'm not a New Yorker, but New Yorkers are like, can't, just getting things done. They shoot it really straight, very direct. Apparently I have that personality, but no, I've been in New England for 12 years now, so.
Is being direct a perception from somebody else, or is it just you saying this is who I am?
Honestly, I think this is who I am. I don't know how to sugarcoat it. If I tried, it's just not in my DNA. I love hard, I fight hard, I play hard. And it's just, you shoot it straight because I don't really beat around the bush. And I appreciate that delivery myself. Like, hey, we're not here to play games, just shoot it straight. And honestly, Cuddy, your own brain, the way that your brain works, you got to shoot it straight. Even we attempt to like pretend that things aren't as they are and we make excuses for ourselves. There's a part of our brain, the reticular activating system, that sits at the bottom of our brain that God created us. I don't care what God you believe in. Our higher self created every single person the same exact way with the same exact ingredients. And this part of our brain is supposed to protect us, right? The fight or flight. If I'm in
Yeah.
the woods and I see a bear, this part of our brain is like fight or flight, go to safety. But even in just day-to-day life, when you're gonna do that new goal, you're gonna go for that thing, when you feel like not confident, part of your brain is trying to keep you safe and trying to look for all the things that could go wrong, and oftentimes cripples us. So we got to learn how to use our minds, how to bring the right mindset to the right situation. Otherwise, you're gonna be just on autopilot and all these things in your mind attempting to convince you that this isn't for you. And so, yeah, sorry, just to shoot it straight, I kind of took it to your mindset because it really, you have to influence yourself. And a lot of people don't believe that. They think, oh, it's just about other people. No, it's about yourself. It's about internal first, and how you're showing up for yourself really matters.
It genuinely, it really does. So we today we're gonna there's gonna be several stories that we're gonna intertwine here, but I always believe that there was a time that any of us were not the ultimate mindset machines, or there was a time when
Oh,
we didn't know. And I was speaking to a friend today, and we were asking, we were talking about people, carrying on the same way and not
mhm.
knowing what certain things, because it does come down to if you know, you know, and we only know what we know. And if we don't
True.
know, then we're going to stay stuck.
100%.
And
You know
that's,
what you know, right?
yeah, it's if you don't know how to activate the RAS system, or if we don't know, and it does come down to beliefs. I think we'll probably deep dive beliefs an awful lot. But I always think there's a tipping point in people's lives where they weren't the ultimate coaches, they weren't the mindset coaches, the international speakers, the owner and founder of their own business.
Right.
So I always try and ask if it's okay. Can we go back to that time
Sure.
where you didn't know what you know now?
Absolutely. And it's interesting what you said that because I say that all the time. My parents were struggling entrepreneurs when I was a kid in San Diego. Everyone's like, "Oh, you lived in beautiful San Diego." It's like, yes, but our lives weren't so beautiful. We were very inconsistent. We moved out around every year, sometimes maybe every other year at most. I must have lived in like 15 places before I turned 17. And it wasn't like we moved out of state. We moved down the street, a mile away, 5 miles away because my parents weren't able to pay the rent. The reason I mention this is because they did the best that they knew how
Yes.
at that time. They didn't know how to control their emotions in a way that, okay, the economy's bad. Okay, the customers are saying no as they were in sales. And right, it matters. It matters so much, and people don't often understand that you can control the outcome more than you think. More than you think, because of the reticular activating system that God has given all of us and the way that we were built, there's an energy that follows. So let me just fast forward as I, remember being a kid and I share this because Cuddy, I didn't know. All I knew was life had to be hard. Not because I was told, it's because I saw that at 5 years old, at 7 years old, at 10, at 13, at 15. That's where I came from. And then soon got married really young, right out of high school, and had two kids with my ex-husband and was in a domestic violence, environment, had the courage to leave that situation because I thought I could help fix this, right? So I started to do the same vicious cycle. And I want everyone listening that to understand that a lot of times our behaviors, our actions or lack of actions is all fundamentally going back to the root of who we are as humans. And the things that really drive us is our belief system. And you might say, well, I'm a pretty positive person. Even positive, happy people have limiting beliefs that are driving the reality. Why is it driving the reality? Because of the actions that you take or don't take. So if I think in my mind, I'm a person that opportunities come my way, I attract all the right people in my life. Every time I put myself out there, I impact people. If I believe that at my core, that's what's going to happen. Does it mean that 24/7, 365 is perfect all the days? No. I don't think we were meant to be this like happy-go-lucky human every second of our day, 24 hours a day. No, we're supposed to feel frustrated sometimes. It's normal. Without frustration, you're not going to finally say, I've had enough. And then that alone takes you to the action that you now took because you've had enough, right? And so later, I became a single mom of two kids. And I remember running around with my head cut off because it was like 7 days a week, like a hamster in a wheel, not really going many places and just driving myself to the bone. And I thought that life had to be hard. I had to work 7 days a week because that's what I saw my parents do, even though there wasn't much success. And there was some times where they had success and other times where there wasn't. And so I started to create the same or live really on pure survival mode. It wasn't just because I had to work 7 days. It was the fact that my mind was just on. It was like I ended up pursuing real estate. So I sold real estate as a single mom. And I thought to myself, I want to give my kids something more than what I had. So I was gonna do whatever I could or die trying. It was just failure was just not an option. But that didn't mean that I was successful on the outside in all the right ways. And people would tell me, could they'd be like, wow, you live in a prestigious area. I came from nothing. I was in a bad area before, a neighborhood. I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, what a beautiful, prestigious, everybody wants to live there neighborhood. Manifested and ended up getting a BMW. So I'm sharing all the material things because that's what I thought. I said, if I can just do this, give my kids something more. When I got off the bus at 10 years old, I was scared walking home. I was in a rough neighborhood. So I thought, Scottsdale, nice neighborhood, children won't have that. So if you think about your behaviors, I started to study my own behavior. And I remember having so much success, Cuddy, where I just could pay my mortgage and everything for 6 months straight. And there were times where I actually couldn't even pay my electric bill. And I started to live the same vicious cycle. I'm like, how do people do it? How are some so successful while others struggle? And that became my obsession. And I started to just kind of learn and I threw myself in every book you can imagine, even the Bible for that matter, and verses and the book about mindset and your thoughts. And I'm like, wait a second, you can actually control your thoughts. This isn't just something that just happens to us. And that became that catapulted me to a whole nother level. Nothing happened overnight, but I started to change myself. It wasn't about the money, the customers that were saying no or yes anytime. I started to realize the reason I was successful and I was able to kind of go behind the scenes like, oh, that's why it was successful. Or when I failed, oh, that's why I failed. Doesn't mean that life is going to not have challenges. It just means that now when challenges arise, when I'm getting the rejection, that I know now how to react to that. And that's huge. It's huge because if we bring a mindset of insecurity, we bring a mindset of, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to get the win. I'm not going to do it's all the conversations and inner dialogue that just takes over. And because of that, there's a level of frequency. I know this might sound, this isn't woo woo. You can look it
No,
up.
this is real. This is fact. This is what we live. I'm all in.
100%. I mean, this is quantum physics at its core. And I became so obsessed with my behavior. And I started to like play with this idea that we could actually live on purpose. And then I said, wait a second, I'm going to do this. It's crazy. What is this all about? And I started to play with it. I started to be mindful and more intentional on how I showed up, all the thoughts that I would have, what I would do when those negative thoughts came. And I started to just do this. And I started to see real transformation, real change. And then I said, wow, who else can I help with this newfound knowledge? And I did. I started to coach and I started to see transformation after transformation, not because I'm God, because they already have it in them. It was just my job as a coach to bring it out, right? And that alone, I'm sure you could relate. Like when you do something to empower others or speak truth or ask the right questions as a coach, you start to uncover not just that, holy cow, this works, but you start to kind of build your own self-confidence. I don't think that we stop filling our confidence tank in what we do and become more of a fan of like, this is real. This is where the juice is at. And so I changed my life around as a single mom. There was hard times for sure. I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage, but I started to raise my standards. And honestly, that begins with you. That begins single-handedly with you, how you show up, who's your circle, because it's all energy. It's all energy. I could have great friends that have very low energy in terms of they're not going anywhere with their life, they're negative Nancy's. There's been research that shows that you can put one person that's positive around 5 people that are negative. That positive person will be impacted in a negative way.
It's true.
Even your results, you surround yourself around the right people, your results and the success that you have follow, right? And so that was been my biggest mission is how do I craft this in a way of foundational? You mentioned earlier, and we talked about this, that you don't know what you don't know. And
True.
that's one of the things I talk about in the More Mindset. And I started with, because listen, there's amazing books out there. There's Think and Grow Rich. There's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, which was like eye opener for me. There's Conversations with God if you want to, get a little closer to God. But it's all powerful stuff. There's amazing books out there. The way that I wrote The More Mindset was very foundational in the first chapters because that's what I said to myself. I said, I've seen it. I've seen it. I had all the best books on strategy, business, the perfect roadmap. You follow this, you'll be successful. But it didn't talk about the core. How can I? Because no one can be successful with, I don't care what training that money can buy if you don't take care of the foundation. The actual driver of the very playbook is you. And so the more mindset is, and there's a lot of books out there on foundation. I'm not saying that there isn't because there is. I've read a lot of them. But I packaged this whole thing where I started more so with a little bit about my story, but also foundational, because I think that that's where it starts. It's awareness and knowledge and understanding, not just like, oh, this is what I just learned. It's like, no, you need to understand who you are and how you were built. And this has been happening for hundreds and thousands of years of how we were all created. And when you understand the machine, it's like your operating system, then you can start implementing the tools and strategies and all these amazing tools that are out there. But you got to take care of your core.
And you know what? When you're talking about operating systems and core and the foundation of beliefs, it's funny because I use an analogy with a lot when I'm out talking and in podcasts and things like that. And it's like you are willing to update your iPhone and buy an iPhone 17 and iPhone 18, but
Yes,
how often do you actually update your own operating system? Because it's your own
love
operating
that.
system that you're working on a Windows 98 at this moment in time, whereas there's Windows 10, 11, and 12 out right now, and those are the operating systems that would get you the changes that you want.
100%. I love that. It's so true. It's so
And I know
true.
you're going to use that, Diana. I know you'll use that.
I will absolutely use that. You got to update your software update. It's that little voice that's nudging you, and you just keep ignoring the update. No, you got to do the update. And I
I,
can't wait 5 years from now, look back and be like, wow, look at the update. I'm like,
yeah.
this is 2.0, Diana. I can't wait for 3.0.
That is beautiful. So I know you've got your book coming out. We'll come back to that a little bit more, because I think we should really, if there's anything I'm always trying to get out into the podcast is that the power of the internal dialogue and thoughts. And even though people think, oh, well, no one can hear me when I'm saying, oh my God, I'm not good enough, or I've just had a horrible day. Your brain hears it and your mind hears it, and it just
Yes,
goes in like a sponge and it starts wiring those neural pathways. And the neural
yes,
pathways are just going off your instructions, whether you're out screaming it or just saying it internally. There's no difference for the brain. It still hears it. And
100%.
yeah, it does. And I use it a lot of the times when I'm out doing talks and things like that. Is like, right now, just scream, I am the best person in the world, just internally. And just ask, who hears that? People are like, well, no one can hear it. I'm like, no, you can hear that.
You can hear.
Even though it's your
Absolutely.
thoughts, it genuinely is still making a difference. And I know there's an old adage of thoughts become things. 100% it does. And I think you make a really good point of, there's going to be some, because I just had working with a client the other day, and I actually did say, the power of a positive mindset is knowing that not every day is going to be fantastic,
Mhm.
but
Right.
you have an umbrella to go out in the rain. That's a positive mindset. A positive mindset is not rainbow farts, unicorns farts, and rainbows
Right.
and roses. That's
Hmm.
not a positive mindset. It's a realism of, oh, today's going to be a shitty day, but I'm good with it.
Exactly. Accepting it.
Yes.
Absolutely. And yes, 100%. It's funny because I always say this to all my clients, and even when I'm on stage, depending on the topic that I'm working on. When you, as an entrepreneur, maybe you've never started your own business, but you want to, or maybe you have a business, but you've reached a plateau, you don't know how to get over that hump, or you're just ready to go bigger. I don't really care what you do, whatever it is, any goal. You could be a stay-at-home mom for all that, when you're about to do something, first of all, we, as you know, we live in our subconscious mind over 85, maybe even more than that percent of the time.
Yeah.
So all the habits, all the procrastination, all the things that don't always serve you more times than not are playing a key role to try to get you to stay in the comfort zone of the majority of your thoughts and behaviors. So when I always say something like it's normal, and the awareness is so huge. When you're hit with something, it depletes you. Like you get rejected or something happens, it didn't work out. Like it hurts your soul to hear a no. And then, right? But awareness is so magical. There's such power in awareness when you know that, hey, I'm going to embark in this thing that I've never done before. I'm about to go bigger, and there's some uncertainty with it. And guess what? When I do this thing, when I embark in this journey, I might hit a snag. I might have a challenge. I might have a roadblock, but that is normal and that can happen. And what matters is that I can handle all that comes my way. And believe it or not, just by you saying the words with power, with certainty, with conviction, that is huge. And here's an analogy that I've been using. I've never heard anybody use it, but maybe they'll start using it more. I don't really care. Hope everybody uses it. There can never be enough analogies out there. I'm sure people have said it, but something I've been saying for years. It's just like, I don't know how it is in the UK, but we have Waze. We use Waze a lot. I mean, you have Google Maps and other powerful tools of navigation, maybe, right? So if you hit a snag, I always say this, and you're going somewhere from, like for me, if I'm going to New York from Connecticut, I'm driving, and Waze will tell you there's an accident 2 miles ahead, but I found another route to take you. I'm going to reroute you. And you're like, thank you. You pivot. You just say, okay, I can't do it this way. What else can I do? Where
Yeah.
else can I look? Does it tell you go home? You're doomed. You can't go to New York. You got to go home. No, you don't go home. And that's the same thing I always say about whatever you're doing, whatever goal it is, big or small, it doesn't matter. It's the same recipe. Go as big as your heart desires. Don't play it safe because you feel this is a safer way. Go big. Go big and see where it takes you. Because I can't tell you how many times I've single-handedly have seen people play small because they were afraid of the unknown or they didn't believe that that was possible, right? And so that's kind of how I always say is it's just awareness and know that if you hit a snag, you got two choices. You're either going to go back home or you're going to figure out another route, another way. And yes, of course, sometimes it's like, hey, what didn't happen or what door closes, it wasn't meant for you. I always say that's your protection. But that doesn't mean that the dream has to stop, that you have to give up. Because I don't believe in failures. I know it sounds corny. Everybody says, oh, but there's lessons and there's people. I can't tell you how many things I pursued that I didn't succeed at right away, but I met people along the way that actually meant something for something bigger, And so there's always that and understanding that like we talked about, not every day is going to be kumbaya, rainbows and butterflies, but that you have everything that you need in your toolkit to be successful. And the question is, are you accessing those tools in your toolkit? And I think that that's where I think you and I come in, right? And a lot of people in this world understanding the mechanism, understanding the behaviors, understanding the reason that people that have nothing get results and other people with the same exact background don't get results. It's all in the internal. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what connections you have or don't have. Listen, there's nothing wrong with connections. I know a lot of people that have gotten success because of who they know. I happen to be somebody that came from nothing. I came from no connections. When I did real estate, I broke records for rookie agents. I don't say that to boast. I say that because I came from nothing. I didn't have connections. But I'm telling you right now, everything I did to be successful in all my endeavors is exactly what I talk about in the more mindset. That's 100%. And the way we probably coach is all on ourselves and how we show up and how we even have the sustainability. Because people think, oh, I had such success. It's not the big thing you do. It's all the little things you do that lead up to the very big thing that you
Yeah.
want.
I was talking to someone about 2 weeks ago, and they went, what do you do as a mind management coach? And I'm like, because we've got I'm sure as you have as well, there's so many different modalities of tools out there that people use. And I've never
Yes.
classed myself as a therapist or a counselor because I think
No.
talking about it is only good to a certain part. There's got to be a part where you move forward and take action. And that's always been my mindset towards it is, look, I'll let you talk, and then we're going to give you the tools to move forward. And
Yes.
you might need someone right there with you to help you move forward. But they said, well, that's really complicated. What is it you actually do? And I'm like, all right, the pure basics of what I do is I give people choice. I give them the gift of choice. You can choose how you feel, you can choose how you want to make out in the world, and you can choose what you want to do tomorrow. Most people don't realize the power of choice. Choice of feelings, emotions, happiness, joy, or depressed states.
Mhm.
That's genuinely, I have a feeling that's very similar for you. Is what we do to the core is literally, I'll help you give a choice. Because if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you can't move forward, you have a lack of choice, and it's exactly like your cheeky little. Is it called Waves? I've never heard of that app, to be fair. But Google Maps would be our driving thing. But you've
That's why
got.
I said Google Map. Waze is awesome. Hopefully they find their way to the UK, but it's awesome. It'll tell you if there's like a cop or a police officer. It'll tell you if there's something on the road. I'm sure Google Maps has done a little bit of that too, but Waze is just happens to be my person. But either way, it's the same thing, same concept.
When you give someone the gift of choice, I think it's absolute life changing for people. So again,
Yeah,
I want to go back, cheeky little timeline therapy with you.
sure.
What was you were a young mum, you left school, young mum, divorced. What was the first you knew you realized you wanted more out of life, but that doesn't just happen. So was there a book or was there a video or was there something that you were like, oh, I need to read that or I need to see that? What was it that was the starting point of your journey? I know what mine was, and I've mentioned it in the 1001 podcast, But what was it for you that was like, that's piqued my interest? I need to learn about that before.
Absolutely.
What was it?
Absolutely. So yes, and honestly, it came at the, when I was dropped to my knees and I was in a pivotal moment where nothing was happening. I was basically my own worst enemy
Yeah,
because I had all the success from the outside looking in.
yeah,
And there was times I didn't even know how to pay my mortgage. And I was
yeah,
so exhausted. And I remember just crying in the bathroom
yeah.
and I just dropped. And so for me, it was very spiritual, right? I think that we're all governed by a higher being.
Hmm.
It was very spiritual. And so I felt, I felt the presence of God in my life. And I remember, I've always grown up, my mom always taught me God, all things are possible, but it was this little voice. And it was, I believe it was God that told me like, it doesn't have to be this hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And so it was just like, I can't explain it. It was just a feeling that I felt that I knew that moment, oh, it is me. It's me.
It's
It's
powerful,
not
isn't
the
it?
right. It's not the circumstances or the economy or the real
No,
estate market that's crashing. It's me. It's me. And so, and then I remember having the book Conversations with God with Norman Vincent Peale and The Power of Your Subconscious Mind and the Bible. Honestly, those things
I
right
thought it
there.
was going to be the Bible. I thought that's where we were going. That's fine.
Yes,
That's brilliant.
yes. And I remember, let me tell you something about anybody. I don't care what journey you're in, regardless of who you believe in. When you seek, you're gonna find. You're gonna find. But you got to be open to receive. You got to seek for the answers. I didn't even know what I wanted, Cuddy. I just knew I needed some answers. I didn't even know to what. And I would open the Bible. Oh, I get chills and I'm getting not gonna cry, but like I open the
Go for it.
Bible.
It's fine.
I cry on commercials. I'm so emotional. I love heart. I'm very
So
passionate,
do
but
I cry at the traitors, by the way. My wife looks at me and goes, "What are you doing?"
there's a reason we're connected. No, but I'm serious. I get chills because I remember as a single mom of two kids, just practically on my own. I mean, the father wasn't, went with their dad every other weekend, but there was times that there was nothing. And it was just, again, it was a moment that I was like, man, this is survival mode. I came from this environment. I don't want my kids to go through that. And it was like, and I was just down on my knees crying and asking for more, for something more that I knew I was missing something. It's like in your heart that this isn't the right way, but you just didn't know where to find it. And it was that voice that said it doesn't have to be hard. And I'm like, what do you mean? But it freaking is. It sure as hell feels hard. I'm so tired of I was so tired of fighting for like survival just to pay the bills and the food on the table. It was so overwhelmingly heavy all the time. And that's what happened. That's literally it was my turning point. It was my turning point that I said I'm not alone in this journey. And I just literally when God tells you to surrender it all, let me tell you, that takes a different level of courage because you feel like you gotta get on the wheel and that it's you driving. But I couldn't do it anymore, Kitty. I couldn't do it anymore. And it was a sense of just surrender it all to God. And my mom I always say that she's like, rest in peace, Mother Teresa, because my mom was practically gonna be a nun before she met my father. And she's still with us. She's gonna be 82, and I owe everything to her. As far as teaching me that God knows what you need always. And so that was a change. And again, it wasn't overnight, but it was just that self-discovery of me and my higher self and how we were created as humans and then the power of our brain is so massive. I'm going to be 90 years old one day, Cody, at a conference learning about some new discovery about our brain because I'm so obsessed with it. And I started to just realize like what exactly is it that we can control? What can I control in this moment? And how faith plays such a massive role. I can't tell you. When everybody said it couldn't be done, when everybody said that this is impossible to come out of, I did it. If I could write a book on that alone, I do talk about that in my book, but if I could write a book on that alone of the miracles, and sometimes it was just not so much of a miracle, but it was like I beat the odds. And I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence. It's not a, it's, I didn't, I'm not lucky. I'm not more talented than anybody else. I'm right. It's because of my inner work that I did. And the belief that I said, why couldn't I be, if somebody else did the thing, if somebody else came out of this, if somebody else somehow managed to be successful, then I can too. And I want to stress that because it doesn't matter whether you come from connections, money, or no education. You can beat the odds too, but it starts with you believing that you can. And when you believe that you can, that's when windows, literally things start to shift in a quantum field that we live in. Not to get weird, but again, quantum physics. I mean, I made my sales team. I said, you know what? Go to freaking YouTube and watch a 15-minute quantum physics video. This is your homework. And they work for us, right? I gave them homework. I'm like, go look into this. And if you get obsessed, keep watching it or keep learning about it. And so I realized that when you believe in yourself so much, and even if it's just like, I'm going to believe in myself a little bit, give yourself that. Just, I challenge you to do it. Because if you imagine a window and you just cracked it open, just baby steps, and you allow the air in and you start to see and feel what's possible, then it just opens up even more. And now you're inviting opportunities, things, people, resources, ideas, solutions that you would never be able to get. No matter how much you pray to God, you got to be open to it. And that's why impregnating and feeding your mind and feeding, the more you tell yourself, if you constantly tell yourself, I'm never going to get out of this, I'm never going to get out of this, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, the more you say it, the more you're going to become the thing that you say. So I'm like, wait a second, if I've been self-sabotaging, what if I did the reverse? What if I told myself that every day I improve, every day I get more opportunities, every day I show up with the right energy, every day I'm increasing my confidence? Do you catch that? I never said that I'm all of a sudden fully confident. If I feel insecure, am I going to feel 100% night and day in a minute? No. But could I tell my brain that every day I'm getting more and more and more confident? Could that still help me? 100% yes. So I always tell people, don't focus on being perfect or being 100% all the time. Just focus on A, the journey, and B, the growth, the progress, just the progress, even if it's 1% better than last week or yesterday or last year, right? Even if it's just a small percentage, I think that that's what it's about. Don't lose patience because you don't see success overnight. Take those small wins that, hey, today I had 10 negative thoughts instead of 50. Beautiful. Celebrate that.
And you know what? In all fairness, there's a few things. There's a few things I want to. By the way, thank you so much. You've shared so much. There's so much value in this.
Of course.
But there'll be a lot of people going, well, what actually did she do? And it'll be. I think it's really cool that you
Sure.
explain. There's a change in consciousness. You've gone,
Yeah.
and a lot of people. What do you mean? There's a change in consciousness? When we go from blaming to accountability, we raise our vibration, and that's a really powerful thing. And if anyone's watching this podcast, go, and I always use the example, if you're the kind of person that is blaming that person, or like you said, the government, or this, or that, the economy, then
Right.
you are not holding your emotions and your mindset accountable for you to go, I appreciate that the government is not brilliant, that there's a war going on over there, and this is not happening, but that doesn't need to. And this is the power of choice.
Mhm.
But when we're in that lower vibrational state, in the lower states of consciousness, you're not going to realize. And it is a harsh word, and for a lot of people watching this, to go, "Why you can't say everyone's a victim?" I was a victim. I was genuinely. I did not know I was blaming everyone, and I was the kind of person that used to blame everybody for how I was feeling. And it wasn't until, and it was my wife that did it. My wife said, "Whatever you're going through, you need to change because it's starting to affect me." And I was like, I didn't realize my emotions were so strong, so powerful.
Yes.
And I know you've not met me face to face, but I am 6'2" and 4 feet wide. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
huge.
Okay.
Diana, I'm huge. I mean, generally when I walk into a room, the lights go out, to be
Oh
fair.
my goodness.
Yeah, I genuinely do. And I do bring a lot of light. I had a conversation with someone else. I'm like, oh God, every time you come into the room, you light it up. And I'm like, I know, because I've had to manifest that. I've had to really work on that to my core. But it's that power of understanding. The second I realized, oh, it's not them that's the problem.
No.
It's me. So now I'm already after changing one thing. I don't have to change the 100 reasons. So guess what? I was less tired. I was less.
Right. You feel
It's just
lighter.
you're not changing not 100 things. You're just changing one, which is
Right.
me. And that
100%.
was that light bulb moment. So what? And I think we should share the books that we've read, and I know you've shared yours three. Um, it was it was the Monkey Mind Relaxation. It was the because my original business was called Monkey Mind Relaxation, but it was actually the
Okay.
Chimp Paradox. How to stop thinking and start living by Richard Carlson. And that was a
Okay.
really powerful book. And I was like, oh God, that's it. That's something that I was going through. And those two books absolutely did change. And then I think I read a Tony Robbins book as well. And
Oh,
that's
very,
when I started
very cool.
understanding consciousness and things like that. And
Yeah. So you're
it's
more
not
looking for,
woo-woo. Exactly.
no,
It's not woo-woo. You're
it's
absolutely right
not
about
woo-woo at
quantum
all. It's
physics.
not woo-woo
No,
at all.
it's not. And I'm really surprised you never mentioned The Secret. I thought you were going to say, yeah, it was a secret that changed my life.
I remember The Secret came out into the what year? Well, I didn't watch it right when it came out. When did it come out?
I think it was, I mean, God, I'm 49 now, so it's got to be, I'm sure it was early 90s.
Oh, see, I didn't see The Secret until 2000 something. It was the 90s?
Was it? Oh, I'm thinking about I might have to Google that then.
Okay. Well, anyways, I did see The Secret. Oh gosh, I mean, I can list all these other books. I mean, I was so I don't have a PhD. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm somebody that lived it and I've worked with other people. So I was so self-taught with so many
Yeah,
books. I mean,
we
I
have
gave
to
you
be.
the top three. But I love The Secret. I love The Secret. I love Bob Proctor. Are you kidding me? I mean, he never met me, but he was one of my mentors by default
Yeah.
just because of his books. But let me give you some actionable items that I did. And I remember journaling. And I know it sounds crazy, like, oh, journaling, who has time for that? But even in this age, and I'm not talking about your cell phone or your iPad, I'm talking about a freaking pen, an actual pen that you have to grab. Well, this is a marker, but you know what I mean. I don't care if it's a marker, if that's all you got, but you get a pen and you write out all the things that, well, first I would just journal. I would like dump everything. And then I realized, okay, that's not really helping. Who wants to read this? I don't want to read it back. So then I started to be more intentional. What do I want? And I remember having gratitude as like one of my absolute go-tos. And let me tell you, that's going to change your life in and of itself. In and of itself. I would say I'm so grateful that my kids are healthy. I'm grateful that I get to do it again. I'm grateful that I'm learning every day what things about me I need to change. I would just start writing three things. And sometimes I would do seven. Sometimes I'm like, okay, why am I not getting more than two? I'm breathing today because I was every single day. But I always tell people, like, what do you mean? Don't look at me with deer in headlights. Are you breathing today? Did you get to wake up and other people your age didn't? There you go. That gets people that gives you perspective alone. And so anyway, so I would do gratitude every night. And I'm telling you, it got to the point, and it's funny because I have a gratitude journal later, but that's besides the point. I would have a journal in my purse when I would travel. I'd have a journal at my office. I'd have a journal in my bedroom. I had so many journals, it became so overwhelming. So that's a story for later, what I did to make that. But I would write gratitude, all the things that I was grateful for. And I'm sure you've seen just it's more than affirmations, but I would write them because there's power when you write and the way that it actually goes into your brain and the response from a chemical, like what you actually ignite, how you have to, you mentioned the neural pathways. Those are real
Yeah.
things. There's neural pathways. Absolutely, because when you write things down from a neural pathways perspective, you're constantly already managing, not even managing, you're living your life with a certain of neural pathways that have been created based on your behaviors, your belief, the inner dialogue that you're doing. We talk to ourselves. I don't care who you are. Everybody talks to themselves. A 5-year-old, a 90-year-old, a 50-year-old, whether it's like, oh, I wonder if I should do this first or have that second. Should I go to lunch now or should I wait 30 minutes? Like whatever it is, you're having conversations. We have like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, over 60,000 thoughts a day. Don't quote me on that, but I know there's a lot of thoughts.
They do say 75,000 thoughts a day, and there is four negative to every five thoughts.
Oh, well, here's the thing, over 75,000 thoughts a day. That's crazy. That's a lot of thoughts. And when we have negative thoughts, over 85% of those negative thoughts are false assumptions. So
Correct.
that I getting sidetracked, but the point is that when you're writing down all the things, whether you're grateful or intentions, I started to write intentional phrases, meaning I am a phenomenal mother. I am a great, at the time I was selling real estate, I am a top real estate agent in my office. I could have said number one, but I said top real estate agent in my office. And I'm telling you, I am helping hundreds of people, with their real estate portfolio in my investor business. And I sold real estate to homeowners, first time buyers, people wanting to sell their house, whatever it was. I took everything that I could. And then my investor business with investors started to grow. And I remember at the time I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I would have investors coming from New York. And let me tell you, there were some bullies because I had to get tough skin. They saw this girl, young girl, like, oh, I had to like earn their respect and I had to really do well. And so the point is that I would write things down. So I would that shifts your mind. Again, it's your reticular activating system that you're awakening because you're the one single-handedly that ends up giving it the targets. You're the only one that can give it the thing that you want it to focus on. So now it's the antennas go up. And if I'm saying that my investor portfolio clients are increasing, more and more, if I say every day I get more confident, if I say I have more than enough money to blah, 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 when you say that, now your antennas are up because of the thing that you fed it. This is not an opinion that I created. This has been happening since the Babylonian days. This is real. And that's what people need to understand is that you single-handedly, even the bad stuff that I've attracted, even the bad things that I'm like, oh my God, how did I attract this? On some unconscious level, even you do. And so it's so hard and this could get really deep, really quickly. It's a hard pill to swallow that I hit this person, I had this accident, I had this. How did I attract it? On some unconscious level, you believe that this was possible. And I know that that's getting I've had things that people have told me, whether I was dealing with some sort of sickness. I share this a lot because I think it's very powerful. I was dealing with anemia and I saw every doctor that I could, the best doctors in New York. And I was told that I would never get to normal levels. I share this because it's so powerful. I would never get to normal red blood cell levels, and I would always be anemic. I would always need to get this like hardcore medication, Cuddy. It wasn't just like a little pill. And I was told that I would never get to normal levels. And I'm sharing this partly about the tools because this is where it's at. This is where it's at. And I said, what do you mean? How long do I need to be on this medication? And they're like, for the rest of your life. And I'm like, wait, what? And I say that because when you accept the thing, whatever the thing is, when you accept it, you become part of the problem, first of all. This is reality. And I didn't accept it. And people might say, are you delusional? Doctors are telling you, and you're gonna fight medicine, you're gonna fight science. And you know what? I remember talking to the doctor, Cuddy, and I said, Doctor, do you believe in God? And he's like, looks at me off guard, what patient does it could. And then he says, I do. And because I asked him, how long, do you know how long I'll be? He says, well, this was another doctor. I apologize. Another doctor. And he says, I don't know until the foreseeable future. I said, you know who does know? God. God knows. I live in God's pharmacy. I live in God's pharmacy. And I'm not going to be on this pill forever. I can tell you that right now. He looks at me, Diana, this is very serious. It could da, 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 da. And they made me watch a video of all these things that I could get. And they left the room. I lowered the volume. I didn't even like at zero, at zero, at zero. I could have fought and said, no, I don't want to be a pain in the, I'm sorry. I'm like, whatever. It's not even their fault. This is how they were trained. They went to medical school and listen, no, full respect to doctors and the medical field. I think they have helped people. They have saved lives. My father got diagnosed with cancer 5 times. So don't get it twisted. There's a time and a season for doctors. I just know that there's a time and a season for miracles as well. And I know this because it happened to me. It happened to me. It happened to my brother at 5 years old. My mom was told he had a brain tumor. And my mom said, well, the same thing happened to her. She went to this church that's very popular in Mexico City, Mexico. And my father carried my brother on his knees and they made a promise. And my mom till this day cries about it. And I even cry about it because I'm saying this story because faith is so huge. That's the mindset you want to bring. The number one mindset you want to bring is faith. Faith in God, faith in something bigger than yourself because it exists. It exists. The trees didn't make you. They just didn't. Right. And so that was huge for me. It was faith. And guess what? 4 months later, I became normal levels of my blood work. I would write down, I live in God's pharmacy. I would say it at night, especially when you fall asleep and you're in that beta state. What
Yes.
you tell yourself right when you fall asleep, right, Cuddy? And I would fall asleep and I would say all my things, but that was the driver because that's the season I was in. I'm like, I live in God's pharmacy. I live in God's pharmacy. And I would imagine myself getting the results. And let me tell you something, the doctor in New York, I was angry at her, but not from a professional. It wasn't it wasn't from a business perspective because I respected that that's what she thought and that's her field. But I went to like the best of the best, so I thought in New York. And I left that office when she told me that I would never get to normal levels. I left there crying with my husband couldn't calm me down. And I was like, the hell I won't. The hell I won't. I absolutely will. I'm going to show her. I literally said that. And I'm telling you, Cuddy, when my doctor in Connecticut told me, I think he took me to his private office and I'm like, oh, this is serious. What's happening? And I said, nope, I'm not going to worry about that because I know God's taking care of this. And I've been saying that to myself all the 3 or 4 months. God's taking care of this. God's taking care of this. And I would be so in the gratitude state. And I was in the statements. And I remember almost having him fall over because I went over to him to hug him when I got the results. And then I told my husband, I'm going to write a letter to that doctor in New York City with a copy of my results. Not because I'm talking crap. You know why? You know why, Cuddy? Because I worry about the people that she has in her office, the patients that may not feel as strong as I did when I walked in there. I mean, I felt broken when I heard it because you're at the moment, like we're human, we're flesh, we're gonna feel things. It's not that you can't feel scared because I did. It's not that you can't feel broken because God knows I felt broken. It's what you do to get your butt back up and say, no, no. God has something nobody has, and that's the power to make miracles happen. But he's only going to do it when you're open, when you surrender it all and you believe, And that's the truth. When somebody tries to put their limiting beliefs on you, doesn't make them bad people. Sometimes they're maybe, but not. I don't believe that, right? If your mom or dad or friend or coworker, if some people just want to keep you safe. In this situation, that was her mindset, her medical brain that she learned somehow. But I said, no, I'm not going to believe that. And I do believe maybe it's reckless to some people, like, oh, that's delusional. You're going to just fight the doctors. You bet I am, because I've seen miracles happen with my father's cancer, with my brother having the tumor, with other people. You could Google miracles, you're going to find them. If you Google bad situations, you're going to find that. If I focus on what all the people that didn't do well with my thing, I'm going to focus on that, and my brain is going to only focus on bad stuff. That's it. But if I focus on one person that made it happen, just that one tiny piece, then that's what I'm going to have. That's what you're going to have. It's what you focus on.
It's the old adage of what we focus on grows more, isn't it?
100%. And so, well, that's what one of the tools that there's plenty to interrupt the pattern is by doing. There's nothing that you're going to interrupt the pattern more than by doing. Doing. Do. Get up, dance. I remember being so upset about my circumstance. I just put a song on, and when you hear a song from a brain level, like your your neural pathways, like what you program yourself. I'm sure there's a song that you might listen to, brings you back to like being a kid. There's the five senses. You
I
smell
know what
something,
it's funny that you
right?
say that. The song doesn't take me back to a kid, it takes me back to a time. So my song is Every Day I'm Hustling by Rick Ross. And whenever I go into
Every day I'm
competitions, I have
hustling.
every day I'm hustling, hustling, hustling. It's such an absolute banger of a tune, but
I
it's
love
what
it.
raises my vibration. It's what
Right?
makes me feel better. And I
Guess what I
stress
listened to
people
before I joined you here?
what we listening to.
No, guess what I listened to before I
Or
joined you?
wasn't Rick Ross his hustling, was it?
No, it actually wasn't, but it's the same framework, right? You listen to something to get your
Yeah,
butt, whether I'm going on stage or I'm about to do a
yeah.
podcast, even on my own podcast. I listen to Eye of the Tiger. It's a
It's a
trigger.
good song. It's a tune.
It's a trigger for me though, because I could listen to Rihanna and be like dancing, high energy. I can still have good energy, but Eye of the Tiger is my trigger. And so I mentioned the five senses because it's so powerful when you feed the five senses,
Yeah.
right? Like what could I visually see myself? You gotta and here's the thing that I'm sure you know this too. When you have success, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. If you're gonna make a cake and you made a cake, you're gonna drive to whatever, you're going to drive to London. You have to see it in your mind. You always actually see it in your mind. You always, 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 without fail, you saw it in your mind first. The bad stuff and the good stuff. You saw it in your mind somehow first. It can't happen unless you see it in your mind. Even engineers building like these bridges, these highways, and they might do the architect and all the design, but they have to see it in their minds before they build it. And so I want to preface this because it's so important. It's so impactful that when you want to change your circumstance, you have to force yourself to see the freaking thing, see yourself coming out of the thing, see yourself succeeding, see yourself on stage doing amazing, see yourself on that presentation with that client or the business person or whoever, see yourself doing it. And that you might say, oh, that's it. Well, there's more to it, but that's a starting point because that's going to elevate you. Even your brain, right, has to live it twice. When you already did the thing, it did it before. So you always do things twice. That sounds crazy, but it's your second time. So like us doing this podcast, it's actually the second time that I saw it in my mind. It sounds weird because I saw your podcast. I went to YouTube and I saw your podcast. So I mean, obviously there's other actions that happened and you might think, oh, what does this mean? If I asked you, what did you have for dinner last night? I don't know what you had for dinner, but you're going to immediately visualize the chair you sat on or the restaurant. Or maybe you're like, I just remember going crazy eating crackers because I didn't have time to eat dinner. Whatever it is, you're going to go back to that place. It's no different. If I said, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I sat on the couch watching movies. You're going to remember the environment, your couch, the color, what you were doing. But if I asked you, what do you want to do tomorrow? Tomorrow I want to have a kick-ass day. I want to do this. Okay, what does that look like? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I started to visualize. So you're talking about actionable tools that changed my life, besides the writing of the stuff or the gratitude and intentions. I'm a top real estate agent in my office. I am a phenomenal mother. I was single, right? I didn't care to get married at that time. I wasn't even looking for a boyfriend. I didn't want anything to do with anything. I just knew that this was my time and my reality, and this is where I was. In fact, I remember saying, I was in my late 20s. I remember saying that by the time I'm in my mid 30s, I'm going to be remarried and I'm going to have two boys a year or two apart. Cuddy, I said this when I was 27 years old and I already had two kids. Well, my daughter was 3 and my son was 9 or 10 or 6 years apart. I said this, I promise you. And guess what? I got remarried at 35 and I have my two boys and they're a year or two apart. Now they're 10 and 11.
Brilliant. I love it.
So careful what you wish for.
Diana, thank you so much for sharing your story, your time. I'm going to give you the title of the podcast before we leave. The title of the podcast is going to be How to Create More Mind Miracles, More Mindset Miracles with Diana Pagano.
I love it. It's amazing. And that fits beautifully.
That's how I generally create the title of the podcast during. So when you think I'm looking down, it's because I'm actually right. I've got the title for the
No,
podcast at
I
the
love
top of
it.
the podcast
That's so genius. I'm gonna start doing that.
because it's a reflection of your book. It's a reflection of you. And I think, when it comes to faith and belief, whether you do believe in God, I believe in a higher power. I'm
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure I'm sat there thinking there's a guy with a white beard up there,
Right
but a
now.
higher power and a higher consciousness, 100%.
Yes.
100%. There's
Important.
got to be something else. There's not a chance in the world that we're the only ones.
No.
It's just too we're
No.
too
No.
we're too magical, to be fair, to be the only
Absolutely.
ones. So
I
I
agree.
want to say a massive thank you, and I know this is going to be coming out in January, so I wish everybody, yourself, so much success for
Thank you.
2026. Diana, is there anything else you want to share in the podcast right now?
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody can know that you are that you are absolutely capable of so much, and anything that your heart desires is there for a reason, and it's meant to be there to get you to get the thing that you want. Life is too short to settle, and you deserve all the success as well.
Perfect. As I wrap up this podcast, I'm a big believer in only solutions to every problem. And I think if anything you took away from this podcast, it will be the power of the miracle, the power of belief. Our beliefs genuinely stop us. And if you don't know what your beliefs are, have a look around you. They are literally, even though they're not physically there sometimes, but the way that we're living, the way that we're feeling, the way that we are not living in tune with the earth is pretty much an example of what our beliefs are. But the biggest key driver for absolutely everybody is, and do never ever underestimate, is the power of language. Not just
Mm,
external language, internal language. Our internal language pretty much dictates where you're going in life. I can't,
absolutely.
I won't, and I don't is literally your language of fear. And once we start reframing and moving away from that language, we start creating options, choice, and a whole new perspective of life. And that is something that
Absolutely.
we hope we can share for 2026. As always, big love from Cuddy, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast.